I think it's really important that we understand that train ride of moving people onto that train, and then kids move out, kids move in, and so forth. So it's like with each stop, you're pulling people off, you're pulling people in to the point where, maybe there's all a bunch of new buddies, and now it's a small group, a medium group, a larger group of buddies. Do you see it that way as well?
I do. And it's a constant rotation, right? I think another thing that's important for teachers and parents to be aware of is that, there are kids that may not want play dates, or teens that aren't comfortable. They don't have anyone yet, and that they want to get together with or be partnered with. So when we're asking our kids, who do you want to be partnered with, or who are you comfortable with? Not all are sharing that. And that's where Dr. Ayu said, teachers being involved and helping to start the pairing process is important. I think it's also important to recognize, you mentioned the whys of SM earlier, and knowing how this child with SM presents is equally as important. Some kids, if they're more sensitive or sensory sensitive, they may be more likely to want buddies that are predictable, calm, or even a little more quiet, because it allows, with the teacher's facilitation, an easier time to come into communication with these peers. Where there also may be kids that they prefer someone a little more outgoing, because this outgoing child carries the conversation and brings them in. They have more energy and brings the energy up for our kids with SM. And it's not always clear right away who to partner them with. I just had a school consult with a child who was moved to a group of all very quiet peers. And this child is not making progress with these quiet kids. But when they are with another child who's a little more talkative and silly and outgoing, my client with SM tends to, build up a little bit in their energy and comes into communication easier. And so we have to be aware of that. And I think parents sometimes, Dr. E, you have a phrase that you use all the time, which I love, which is look, listen, and learn. Sometimes we have to look at what worked before, or what type of kids did my child do well with, and what type of kids sometimes they were comfortable with, but may not move forward in progression. And I think it's important to look at those pieces. So if we start the school year, or you're in the school year and you've partnered with some kids, there's nothing wrong with evaluating that, and that's what our team meetings are for, or your 504, your IEP meetings. When we're talking about accommodations, it's not just having a buddy. It's, well, what type of buddy, and where are we utilizing them, and how are we utilizing them? And if they're not a good fit, well, how do we then start to bring alongside a new person, right? That train ride that you mentioned, bring alongside a new student, and what might that student's personality be like to help grow that child's engagement. And as you said, we're thinking about growing their communication and getting that train ride, those 3 to 5 kids. It does take time. It depends on what grade level we're looking at. Sometimes we have to accommodate a little differently, depending if it's an elementary, middle, or high school student, because the way they're going to engage with peers and where they're going to engage with peers is going to vary a little bit. An elementary school child who's in the same class all day may have more opportunities for pairing up and then seating, running errands, going to special area classes with the same grouping of kids, where our middle school and high school kids begin to separate a little bit. And so it requires us to have more engagement and dialogue with school staff as a team, and also be open to who are the most important buddies that we're going to start with, who are we going to add on, and who are the team members who may help to facilitate some of the smaller group interactions that are going to be needed to make this successful.
No, those are excellent points. And there was something you said in there. You said about, building the comfort or having the comfort. And I think it's important for our listeners to understand that you could be comfortable with another peer. So what some families listening to this are saying, but wait, my child has buddies they're comfortable with. They're just not making the progress. And that's where, as you said, that's where you have to back it up. Like, I have a session this afternoon with a middle school boy who has buddies, right? But he's not making the progress, right? So this is my second consult with the family, and the family's already been doing some of the interventions, and the child's doing great. And the psychologist emailed me this morning to say, well, this happened. Now he's being able to quietly respond to me. We had to back it up. I had to put together an entire plan, which was chart-based, because this child is very anxious with a control, knowing what, when, and where. So a lot of the charting had to be done on how to utilize, in this particular case, weaning out somebody he was like a parent to be able to verbalize with, so that the child saw step by step what he was doing. And I don't want to get too into that particular chart because they're all kind of tweaked and different, right? But the point is, it's the path, it's the journey, it's like when you're going from one point to another, you have to have like a map, a GPS. And so what a lot of people or a lot of our listeners are thinking, he's already comfortable. Why isn't he talking? So it's about the specific strategies and interventions. I can't say that enough. It's not just comfort. That's the prerequisite. So if they're not comfortable, build comfort, connection, engaging activities and strategies. But if they're comfortable and they're stuck against the nonverbal wall, stage 1 to get to stage 3, we have to utilize transitional strategies, Jen. We have to utilize the use of the verbal intermediary, possibly sounds to words. But again, the category of a verbal intermediary, the category of sounds to words, the category of using augmentative devices, that's like gigabytes of information and how to tweak that. And you know, I know you're laughing, but so many people are like, I use the verbal intermediary. Meanwhile, they describe it completely wrong to me and they don't know how to tweak it. I must have thousands, well, I don't know about thousands, but hundreds of charts of how to tweak a verbal intermediary, how to teach teachers how to ask questions, when to ask questions, where to ask questions, and how to utilize these charts that we put together. And it really is an individual approach. And I think this is what's really key. So the buddy process is critical for comfort, connection. As you were saying, the 3, I loved how you described that with the buddy process.
It was
We
like
definitely
the 3 E's: to empower
yeah,
the child, to engage them, and to expand them socially.
yeah, I love it. And progression of communication, right?